Imagine humiliating a customer without knowing he owns the place, and worse, without realizing he's the most famous golfer in the world. This unbelievable story took place at a high-end restaurant in Florida. What started as a terrible customer service moment turned into a powerful lesson in humility, judgment, and fate. If you love stories with unexpected twists that feel like something straight out of a movie, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. It all began on what seemed like an ordinary Monday at the Woods, one of the most upscale restaurants in the region. Elegant atmosphere, exclusive dishes, and a clientele filled with millionaires, athletes and celebrities, but anyone who paid attention to the name The Woods might have guessed who was behind it all. Emily, a 23-year-old waitress who had just joined the team, walked in visibly exhausted. She was late, annoyed, and had skipped the orientation where employees learned about the restaurant's background, including who owned it. For her, The Woods was just another job. She was there to pay bills and survive. That same afternoon, a man walked in wearing a cap, sunglasses, and a plain t-shirt. Calm, low profile, no entourage, no flash, just another customer. Or so she thought. It was Tiger Woods. Emily greeted him with a rushed, indifferent tone. "Afternoon. Do you know what you want already? Just so you know, we're super busy today, and the special menu is only for people who reserved, okay?" Tiger smiled politely. "That's all right. Could you recommend something from the house?" She sighed, clearly irritated. "Look, if you want. Something affordable. The burger is the cheapest. But just so you know, this isn't fast food, okay? It's a real restaurant for people who actually know what they're doing here." Tiger nodded calmly, a subtle smile forming at the edge of his lips. He'd been judged his whole life, for his race, for his mistakes, for his success, but nothing quite prepared him for being treated like a nobody inside his own restaurant. Emily kept up her cold demeanor. She spilled water on the table and barely apologized. She got his order wrong, then muttered loud enough for others to hear. Of course, one of those customers. Other employees began to whisper. Some of them recognized him but froze, afraid to interfere. One leaned over and quietly asked, "Does she seriously not know who he is?" Photos of Tiger Woods hung on the walls. One huge picture stood right at the entrance, proudly labeled Founder Tiger Woods. But Emily had never noticed. She was always too stressed, too distracted, too caught up in her own world to see beyond the surface. And there he was, sitting, watching, being disrespected, in the very space he built to represent excellence. But he didn't lash out. He didn't correct her. He just watched. Because Tiger knew that sometimes silence reveals more about people than 1,000 words ever could. Meanwhile, Emily kept stumbling through her own arrogance and unawareness, and the moment of truth was creeping closer. What she did next will shock you, and what happened when she finally found out who was sitting in front of her is something you won't forget. As the minutes ticked by, Emily continued serving the other tables with the same dismissive attitude, completely oblivious to the man sitting in her section. Her thoughts were focused on her own struggles, bills piling up, her mom's health worsening, and the stress of living paycheck to paycheck. She was barely able to mask the frustration in her voice as she moved through the evening shift. Meanwhile, Tiger sat there, quietly observing. He didn't complain. He didn't ask for special treatment. He just watched, and in his silence was beginning to realize just how much Emily was struggling. He knew what it was like to be in a tough spot, to be overwhelmed by life's challenges. But this wasn't the first time he'd encountered someone like her. It wasn't long before Emily came back to the table, completely unaware of who she was about to face. "Is everything okay with your meal?" Emily asked, barely looking at him, more focused on wiping down the empty tables nearby. Tiger took a slow breath and looked up at her. "Actually, I've been waiting a bit longer than expected. Could you check on my order?" She didn't even flinch at the subtle hint. "I'm sorry, but we're super busy tonight. You'll have to wait like everyone else. You know, it's not like you're the only one who wants food," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Tiger remained calm. He had been in the public eye for years, dealing with both admiration and scorn. He wasn't fazed by her attitude, but at that moment he could sense something deeper in her actions, something that went beyond just poor customer service. "Emily, turned away, muttering to herself as she walked to the kitchen. Some people really think the world revolves around them. As she disappeared behind the kitchen doors, Tiger sat there in deep thought. He had heard similar things before in his life, but there was something different about this situation. He wasn't just an athlete, he was also a business owner, someone who understood the pressure and strain that came with running a company. He could empathize with people like Emily, even though her behavior left much to be desired. It was then that the restaurant manager, Kevin, approached Tiger's table. "Excuse me, sir," Kevin said, with a nervous glance at Emily, who was still back in the kitchen. "I noticed you're having some trouble with your service. If you'd like, I can personally take care of the issue or move you to another table." Tiger shook his head with a smile. "It's all right, I appreciate it. She's just having a tough time, it happens." Kevin looked at him confused. "Are you sure? You're one of our most important clients. We can't let this go on." "I'm not concerned about that," Tiger replied calmly. "I just want to see how it plays out." Back in the kitchen, Emily was pacing around, still frustrated. She knew she wasn't doing a great job, but she didn't care anymore. She had enough on her plate. She hadn't been able to pay for her mother's treatment in weeks, and she was losing sleep over the mounting medical bills. The last thing she wanted to deal with was some high-maintenance customer acting like they owned the place. But what she didn't know was that her problems were about to collide with her future in a way she couldn't have imagined. As Emily came back to the table with a small dismissive smile, she placed the bill down with an exaggerated gesture. "Here's your check. Enjoy the rest of your evening." Tiger glanced at the bill for a moment, and then, for the first time, he spoke directly about his thoughts. "You seem like you're going through something right now. It's okay to talk about it. People go through tough times." Emily froze, her eyes widening for a split second. No one had ever said anything like that to her. She was used to being dismissed, to being judged. But Tiger's calm, sincere words caught her off guard. "I'm fine," Emily snapped, quickly turning away. But as she walked back to the kitchen, something inside her began to shift. She wasn't sure why, but for the first time, she felt like maybe she had been seen, really seen. What she didn't realize was that Tiger wasn't done yet. He hadn't spoken his final words to her, and soon the tables would turn in a way that would leave her questioning everything. Emily was about to learn a powerful lesson in humility, and Tiger was about to show her that compassion could change, lives in ways she never expected. And when the truth came out, when Emily found out exactly who had been sitting at her table all along, she would have to face the consequences of her actions. Would Tiger get the revenge she might deserve? Or would he take the high road? The final twist of the story was coming, and it was going to change everything. As the night wore on, the tension in the air at the woods was thick. Emily had no idea what was about to unfold, and Tiger, who had remained calm and composed, was now ready to make his move. The evening had continued, and Emily had served several more tables, still holding on to her irritation and stress. Every moment felt like another piece of weight on her shoulders, pressing down harder than the last. But as she approached Tiger's table again to check on him, she could feel something was different. It was as if the atmosphere in the restaurant had changed, but she couldn't put her finger on why. Tiger, who had been sitting there patiently, finally decided to speak again. "Emily," he called out as she walked past, catching her attention with a soft tone. "Can I talk to you for a moment?" She paused, unsure if she wanted to engage, but for some reason, his voice made her stop. She turned and walked back over to his table, feeling a little nervous now. It wasn't just because she had been rude. There was something about him that made her feel uncomfortable, almost as if he knew something she didn't. "Yes?" she asked, trying to mask her unease. Tiger looked at her with a calm but piercing gaze. "You know, I've been watching you all evening. You're clearly going through a lot, but the way you've been treating your customers, it's not fair to them. They don't deserve it, and you don't deserve to carry this burden on your own." Emily's breath caught in her throat. She was expecting an angry outburst, but instead, he was speaking to her with kindness. It made her feel small, and she hated it, but at the same time, it struck a chord deep within her. "I don't know what you're talking about," Emily muttered, her voice cold. "I'm fine, I'm just trying to do my job." Tiger didn't respond immediately. Instead, he picked up the bill and slid it across the table to her. "That's not the only reason I called you over," he said, his voice steady. "I think you deserve to know something. something you should have known a lot earlier." Emily took the bill hesitantly, still confused. She was about to walk away when Tiger spoke again, his words cutting through the air with a quiet intensity. "I'm the owner of this restaurant. This is my place." Emily stopped in her tracks, the words hitting her like a ton of bricks. She stood frozen, her mind trying to process what she'd just heard. This man, this ordinary-looking customer who she had just treated so poorly, was not only the owner of the restaurant. He was Tiger Woods, one of the most famous and successful golfers in the world. Her stomach dropped. The weight of her actions hit her hard. How could she have been so careless, so dismissive? She felt the shame rush in like a tidal wave. She wanted to run away, to hide from the humiliation, but Tiger wasn't done. "Emily," he said softly, "I don't hold grudges. Life is hard, I get it. I've been through tough times myself. But you don't have to treat others this way to deal with your own struggles." Emily's face flushed with embarrassment, but Tiger's words were starting to sink in. She opened her mouth to apologize, but the words got caught in her throat. What could she say? How could she take back the way she had acted? "I didn't mean to—" she started, but Tiger raised a hand to stop her. "It's okay," he interrupted, his voice still calm and understanding. "I know things can get overwhelming, but you need to understand that your attitude is hurting you more than anyone else. If you can't find a way to release some of that stress, it's only going to weigh you down." She nodded, not sure what to say. All she could think about was the mess she had made. Her pride, her stress, her fears about her mother's health and medical bills, it all collided in that moment. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I've been struggling with a lot. My mum is really sick, and I can't afford her treatment. It's been hard and I didn't know how to deal with it." Tiger listened attentively, his expression softening. "I understand. I really do. Life can throw some serious challenges your way, but you don't have to face them alone." Emily looked up at him, tears welling up in her eyes. She hadn't expected any of this. She had expected to be scolded, maybe even fired, but instead, Tiger was showing her empathy, understanding. It was overwhelming, and she felt a weight lifting off her chest. "Look, I know I've been hard on you," Tiger continued, "but I want to help. I don't just want to give you a second chance. I want to make sure you can take care of what's most important to you." Emily blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" Tiger took a deep breath. "I'm going to pay for your mother's treatment. I'll take care of the bills so you don't have to worry about them. You focus on her. Don't let the stress ruin your life." Emily stood there, unable to process what he had just said. She could barely breathe, her mind spinning. Was this real? Was Tiger Woods actually offering to pay for her mother's medical expenses? I don't know what to say," she stammered. "You don't have to do that. I can't accept that. It's too much." Tiger smiled gently. "I can, and I want to. I've had people help me when I needed it, and now I'm in a position to give back. Consider it a gift, not a handout." With those words, everything shifted for Emily. She realized that sometimes people are given second chances not because they deserve them, but because they need them. And this act of kindness from someone she had disrespected so harshly would change her life forever. As Emily stood there, her mind racing and her heart still racing, the weight of Tiger's kindness began to settle in. She had never expected something like this, not from someone she had disrespected so openly. The realization of what he was doing for her, paying for her mother's treatment, hit her with a force she couldn't ignore. For the first time in weeks, Emily felt a spark of hope. Her mother's illness had drained her, and the mounting bills seemed like an insurmountable wall. The stress had made her short-tempered and irritable, and it had caused her to lash out at others, including the people who mattered the most. But here was Tiger Woods, the very person she had humiliated, offering a lifeline she never saw coming. Tiger's calm demeanor never wavered as he watched Emily process what he had just said. He knew it would be overwhelming, but he also knew that sometimes a small act of kindness could change everything. "I know you're probably in shock," Tiger said, his voice steady, "but I want you to remember one thing. You're not alone in this. You don't have to carry the weight of the world on your own. Life is too short for that." Emily nodded slowly, still struggling to find the right words. She had been expecting to be scolded, perhaps even fired for the way she had treated him. But instead, Tiger had extended a hand of compassion and understanding, offering her something far more valuable than money, the chance to start fresh. "Thank you," Emily finally whispered, her voice barely above a whisper. She looked down at the bill Tiger had given her, and then back up at him, the tears starting to flow. I don't deserve this. I've been terrible, and yet you're willing to help me. I don't know how to repay you. Tiger shook his head with a gentle smile. You don't have to repay me. Just promise me one thing. Don't let this moment be wasted. Take this second chance and make the most of it. Don't let your circumstances define who you are. As Tiger's words sank in, Emily felt a shift within herself. The shame she had been carrying for so long was starting to melt away, replaced by something more powerful: gratitude. Gratitude for Tiger's kindness, for his wisdom, and for the opportunity to change her path. You're right, Emily said, her voice gaining strength. I've been so focused on everything that's going wrong in my life that I've lost sight of what really matters. I've been letting my anger control me. Tiger nodded in understanding. It happens to the best of us, but it's never too late to make things right. You can still choose how you respond. Life is all about how you handle the obstacles that come your way. Emily took a deep breath, wiping away her tears. She had spent so much time being angry at the world and at herself, but now, for the first time in a long time, she felt like she could breathe again. Thank you, she repeated, this time with more conviction. I'll do my best to make things right, not just for my mom, but for myself. Tiger smiled, satisfied with her response. That's all I can ask for. And remember, it's okay to ask for help when you need it. You don't have to carry it all on your own. Emily nodded, feeling the weight of her emotions shift. She wasn't sure what the future held, but she knew one thing for certain. She was no longer alone in her struggles. With Tiger's unexpected kindness, she had been given a new perspective on life, and she was determined to use it to make a difference. As she walked back to the kitchen, her mind swirled with the words Tiger had said to her. She had a lot of work to do, not just with her job, but with her mindset, her attitude, and her relationships. But for the first time in a long while, she felt a glimmer of hope, and as she passed by the tables, her eyes fell on the name of the restaurant again, The Woods, a subtle reminder that sometimes the most powerful lessons come from the most unexpected sources. As days passed, Emily found herself reflecting on everything that had happened. The more she thought about Tiger's kindness, the more it ate away at her conscience. How could she have treated him the way she did? How could she have let her frustrations blind her to the truth of who he was? She had been so caught up in her own problems that she had lashed out at the one person who could have helped her the most. But now, thanks to Tiger, she had a chance to right the wrongs she had committed and become a better person. It wasn't easy. Emily found herself overwhelmed with guilt at times. She had taken her stress out on her co-workers, been rude to customers, and even had moments where she wanted to quit her job altogether. But she remembered Tiger's words. Don't let your circumstances define who you are. So, she decided to take action. The first step was confronting her manager. Emily had been avoiding him since the incident, afraid of the consequences of her behavior, but she knew she couldn't move forward unless she owned up to her mistakes. She needed to apologize, not just for what she had done to Tiger, but for the way she had been treating everyone around her. With a deep breath, Emily walked into the office, ready to face the music. Her manager, Dave, was sitting at his desk, typing on his computer when she entered. Emily, hey, what's up? Dave asked, glancing up from his screen. I need to apologize, Emily said, her voice shaking slightly. I've been out of line lately. I've been rude to customers. I've treated my co-workers poorly, and I hurt someone I respect, all because I let my stress take over. Dave looked at her for a moment, his expression unreadable. I appreciate you saying that, Emily, but you've got to understand, when you let your personal problems affect your work, it hurts the whole team. I'm glad you realize that now. I do, she said, nodding, and I want to make it right. I don't want to be that person anymore. Dave studied her for a moment, and then gave a small, approving nod. All right, I'll give you another chance. Just remember, we all have our struggles, but that doesn't give us the right to take it out on others. As Emily left Dave's office, a sense of relief washed over her. She had taken the first step towards making amends, but there was still work to be done. She knew she had a long way to go, but she was willing to put in the effort. The next day, she made it a point to be kind to her co-workers and go the extra mile with the customers. She greeted everyone with a smile, did her best to stay positive, and even apologized to the ones she had been rude to in the past. And then there was the matter of her mother. With the money Tiger had generously given her, she was able to pay for her mother's medical bills and get her the treatment she needed. Emily couldn't believe the relief that washed over her when she saw the doctor's approval for her mom's care. She had made a promise to herself that she wouldn't waste this opportunity to turn her life around, and she was already seeing the results. Her relationship with her mother was improving. She was gaining the trust of her co-workers again, and she was even starting to feel more at peace with herself. One evening, after her shift ended, Emily decided to take a walk in the park. As she strolled, she couldn't help but think back to the day Tiger had walked into the woods, the day that changed everything for her. She remembered the moment she had treated him like just another customer, not realizing who he was, and how that moment had turned into a powerful lesson in humility. She also remembered the way he had extended his kindness to her, even though she didn't deserve it. And the more she thought about it, the more she realized how much that moment had shaped her. She had learned that no matter how difficult life got, there was always room for kindness, and that sometimes the people we least expect are the ones who can change our lives forever. As Emily walked back home, she smiled to herself. She was no longer that angry, stressed-out woman who couldn't see beyond her problems. She was a work in progress, but she was making the effort, and she knew that with time, she would continue to grow and learn, and maybe, just maybe, one day, she'd be able to pay Tiger's kindness forward. As Emily's life began to shift, she realized that it wasn't just about paying back Tiger's kindness or mending the relationships she had damaged. It was about changing the way she saw the world and her place in it. The grace Tiger had shown her had sparked a chain reaction that was slowly but surely transforming her into a person she could be proud of. Her mother was recovering, and the financial burden that had weighed her down for so long had been lifted. Every day, Emily visited her at the hospital, watching her slowly regain strength. The relief in her eyes made Emily feel like everything was falling into place, even when it felt like the world had been falling apart just a few weeks ago. At work, she had become a different person. The toxic attitude that had once defined her interactions was being replaced with patience, gratitude, and understanding. Emily went out of her way to help her co-workers, always offering a kind word or a gesture of support. She learned to appreciate the little things in life, the conversations she had with customers, the moments of peace, and even the challenges that pushed her to grow. Her shift in mindset wasn't instantaneous, but it was consistent. Each day was a step toward becoming the woman she had always hoped to be. One afternoon, after a long shift, Emily received a phone call. When she saw the caller ID, her heart skipped a beat. It was the restaurant manager, Dave. "Emily, I need to talk to you about something," Dave said, his voice calm. "We've been talking about your progress here at the restaurant, and I just wanted to say that I've noticed a significant change in you. You've really turned things around." Emily felt a rush of warmth flood through her. She had been waiting for this moment, but hearing it from Dave made it all the more real. "Thank you, Dave. I've been working hard on myself," she replied, her voice steady. "I really appreciate the chance to make things right." "I think you've earned a promotion," Dave said, a smile evident in his voice. "Starting next month, I'd like you to take on a more managerial role. You've shown a lot of growth, and I think you're ready for more responsibility." Emily's eyes welled up with tears. The opportunity she had dreamed of, the validation she hadn't expected, was finally here. The words "I think you're ready" echoed in her mind, and she realized how much she had learned, not just about her work, but about herself. She paused for a moment, taking in the enormity of what was happening. It wasn't just about the promotion. It was about the change in her, the growth that had come from a deep place of self-reflection and a willingness to change. And it all started with that one act of kindness from someone she had no idea would change her life forever. As the days passed, Emily continued to grow. She made it a habit to reflect on her actions, to check in with herself and to ask, "How can I show up better today?" She wasn't perfect, but she was committed to doing her best. Then, one evening, as Emily walked out of the restaurant after her shift, something unexpected happened. She spotted Tiger Woods walking into the woods again. He looked the same, calm, collected, and gracious, as if nothing had ever happened. Emily felt a surge of gratitude. She hadn't seen him since that fateful day, and the weight of everything that had happened hit her all over again. She had been given a second chance, not only by her manager and co-workers, but by him. She didn't know what to say, but she felt she had to thank him once more. With a deep breath, she approached him. "Mr. Woods," she began, her voice shaking slightly, "I just wanted to thank you again. You changed my life that day. I don't know how to repay you, but I promise I'll never forget what you did. For me." Tiger turned to her, his eyes warm but thoughtful. "I'm just glad I could help," he said with a smile. "But the real work is up to you. You're the one who made the decision to change." Emily smiled through her tears. She didn't need any more validation. She had learned the lesson she needed. Life wasn't about waiting for someone to rescue you. It was about recognizing the opportunities for growth and taking responsibility for your own journey. "I'll keep working on myself," Emily promised, her voice steady. Tiger gave a nod of approval, then turned to walk into the restaurant. As he entered, Emily stood there for a moment, reflecting on everything that had happened. She had learned about humility, the power of kindness, and the strength that comes from forgiveness in both giving and receiving. As she walked away, a feeling of peace settled over her. She didn't have all the answers, but she knew she was on the right path, and that was enough.